Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you are in. This is the Big Girl Diary, and I got one for you today. I am struggle streaming already. Hey, how are all of you doing? I'm sorry about yesterday. I had an unexpected guest, and people know you call before you come. That's just polite manners. But that didn't happen yesterday, and I do apologize. So I'm making up for yesterday for today, and I got some good stuff. I was talking about Evan Rachel Wood, and I found some interesting stuff, interesting stuff, interesting stuff. Okay. Now, before I get to it, what I will do is I'll wait for a second for everyone to come in. I'll give it a second. But yesterday I do apologize. Sometimes family they sort of come over and think that what you're doing is not important because it's all about them. We all have those family members. All righty, all righty. So, for my subscribers, I want to thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and getting me past 1,000. Now I'm heading toward 1,300, and I am so thankful. No, I'm sorry, 1,400. I apologize. 1,400. I'm getting there, and I'm going to get every single subscriber one by one, and I hope you like my content. Well, no, I think you do like my content. That's why you subscribe. I do think that. Thank you for that. And for my members, after this live stream, we're going to go to Discord, and I will put the link up because the link doesn't last very long. So I'll put the link up so we can go ahead and discuss more. I have a lot of in-depth stuff on Evan Rachel Wood and how that works with Marilyn Manson. So we can go ahead and discuss some things there. All right. Outside of that, let's go ahead and get to it. All right. Evan Rachel Wood has been obsessed with Marilyn Manson, which is so true. Not only obsessed with him, and stick with me, I'm going to unpack this. But her obsession for older men, it didn't start with Marilyn Manson. No, no, he wasn't her first, and not going to be her last. Let me get some agua. Normally, I have my cafe au lait, but not today. So, Evan Rachel Wood did not just start off with Marilyn Manson. No, that was her latest obsession. The first one was, you want to tell me? Edward Norton. He was 2 years before Marilyn Manson, and no one groomed her. No one. She was groomed by her books that she read. Now, I did a previous video talking about her being homeschooled for whatever reason. It didn't go into great detail, but her parents had to pull her out of school, and it talked about her parents' divorce and how that negatively impacted her, like it does most children. And most children go through that in different ways, but I'll leave it there. So her obsession with Marilyn Manson, it just she went straight for him. She went straight for him at the age of 19. And when you're 19, you really you have no filter. You just sort of go for it. It simply doesn't matter. You see what you want. It doesn't matter who may be in that person's life. It doesn't matter at all. They're going to go for what they want. They're going to get what they want, and it doesn't matter who they step on. And for people like Evan, they go the extra mile and do a lot of manipulative things, put yourself in a place, make yourself available. And that's what she did. That's exactly what she did. But to get to the grooming thing, and I mentioned just about a minute ago, it went through the books that she read. And she read the book, um, Lolita. Now, when you homeschool and you don't have the structure, whether if it's a public school, some people go go in and say government schools, or if it's a private school, there is structure, a curriculum, what every child should know, goes according to the national standards, not only national standards, but which each state, city, county would like for their future employees, that's what it basically is, to know. So her parents just put some books down there, and it just so happened Lolita was there. The book Lolita, no seventh grader had no business reading Lolita. That right there it just popped her mind out. And she dressed like Lolita in heart-shaped glasses or sunshades. And she said that she mimicked Lolita for a long time, down to the one sock and a lollipop. So that was Evan Rachel Wood, as far as what she was doing, being homeschooled, and someone like that having those issues. And when I say those issues, Marilyn Manson Uncanceled, I just found something today on their website, and this right here goes into her being obsessed and the Lolita thing. Let me take a look at it real quick. If you want to take a look at it, I put it in a chat uh, here. Let me see, was that it? No. But I have the source right here if you want to look at the page for Marilyn Manson Uncanceled. But here, now he says the real reason Evan Rachel Wood checked herself into a mental hospital. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, she did. She did, and rightfully so. And there's nothing wrong with needing help. And the best thing is when you know that you need help. But she ran with the label as, I'll let her words say it. Evan Rachel Wood penned as easy for Nylon, publishing in 1931. I'm sorry, January 31st, 2019, that she talked about the time she checked herself in a psychiatric hospital after a suicide attempt. When I was 22, that was after Marilyn Manson. I think that was after Marilyn Manson when they broke up. I'm not quite sure because remember they were together when she was 19. When I was 22, I willingly checked myself into a psychiatric hospital and have absolutely no shame about it. Looking back, it was the worst and best thing that ever happened to me. After a suicide attempt, she called her mother asking her to take her to the mental hospital. I haven't eaten or slept in 3 days. Oh my goodness. When you do not eat or sleep and you're sleep deprived, that adds additional issues whenever your mind, your brain is depraved of sleep and even proper nutrition. That does a lot to you. And thank you, Marilyn Manson Uncanceled, for this, but I want to make sure that you all get this info. When her mother asked her why she attempted to take her own life, she replied, she she wasn't looking for I'm sorry, she replied that she was looking for peace. My mind was not a peaceful place. My mind at the time was filled with scars and shadows, and most importantly, so much shame. I was struggling with PTSD and didn't know it. PTSD is considered a mental illness. How many of you know that? I didn't know that. A mental illness, it can be caused by a number of things and is not limited to brave service people. My PTSD caused by a number of grape juice and a severely abusive relationship that went on for years. During that time, she felt a lot of fear. I had struggled with anxiety and panic attacks during the course of my life, but this was this was a whole other level of fear. I heard my name in my ears while I slept, which would jolt me awake. My hazy stupor, I would see shadows, figures, and people in my room. Wow. I would scream and they would disappear. I was afraid to be alone, but I also could not be around people. Wow. I could barely leave my house and I was too afraid to go outside. I could I could not sleep because every little noise was deafening. I was I was defensive, I was impulsive, and I had no healthy coping mechanisms yet. I lost friends, I lost job opportunities. When when she finally checked into a mental hospital, a certain woman began asking her about her mother's question. Evan writes, after a few more questions, the woman gave a quick look to my mother, then back to me. I I have to ask, were you abused now? She said. My heart sank. My mother politely excused herself so as not to make me feel uncomfortable, and probably for her own sanity. Then I proceeded to share stories with my new personal, all the trauma I could remember and had processed enough to identify as abuse. A lot of other, I'm sorry, a lot of it was still buried, but I didn't, but I did my best. Oh my goodness. It was difficult to say those things out loud. I could hear myself, the words, but it didn't register. And I feel something else talking through me that I can't tell my story. But it goes on. So I thought that was really good. It goes on and on. And this is where I'm looking at the Lolita, because by her having anxiety and being afraid, that may, and I'm no doctor, I'm no psychiatrist, none of those things, nothing in the mental health at all. That could this have pushed her, not pushed her, but allowed her to be with older men, to where being with um, Ed Norton or Edward Norton, because he was young. She was like 17. I think oh man, I think Edward, was he born in 60s, 50s, somewhere, not 60s or 1970s, somewhere around there. But back at that time in the 80s and the 90s, it was a free for all. And um, as of today, young people have this know-it-all attitude, and that they go for what they want, and no matter what, they're going to try to do their will. That's just how young people are until they get older and realize I made mistakes, and then all the issues start falling out. Now, now this is what she's talking about here goes into my next question or statement. There are allegations that Evan Rachel Wood was abused by Marilyn Manson, and she never mentioned this until Marilyn Manson married Lindsay. Now, if you go back to this here, to where she was talking about that she was grape juiced and was abused, um, she goes into it as she was younger, as she was young, and this is interesting. One night towards the end of my stay, someone asked me to get up and to sing a song. I was feeling a lot on this night. Reflecting on the time, reflecting on my time there so far, I shifted through the stacks of sheet music and landed on my favorite song ever written, Smile by Charlie Chaplin. I closed my eyes and started to sing, and when I opened them, was the room of pained souls were quiet and listening to the words. Smile through the heart of aching, smile even though it is breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. Time stopped, and for a moment, I felt my soul come back, and I started to feel like me again. And I think that right there is a really good thing. But I thought that was interesting. But with all of those issues, and and she said that she went there for PTSD, anxiety, and all this other stuff. Now, post traumatic stress disorder, I would have to ask what went on in her life, in her house. Now, from as far as I know, she never said anything about her younger years, if there was any abuse, but she was quite open and forward about her liking older men and was freely to go be with older men. She just had no issues with it. Which leads me back to the the book of Lolita. Did that have a lot to do with it? To make her open to those suggestions and thoughts, especially. And I keep on going back to her brother saying that she can't tell the difference between what is reality and what is not reality. Oh, this poor woman. I mean, my heart goes out to her. It does, but I'm glad that she knew that she needed help. But I think she still may need. Let me not say that. Let me stay away from that right there. So, so here, why is this not? So here, Marilyn Manson. Now it seemed like that. Now everything fell apart when Marilyn Manson got married. That is when all this came out. That is when she is like, okay, all this happened to me. She goes to Congress, she goes to the state Senate, and none of this was happening at all. At all. She didn't say anything about it until Lindsay became Lindsay Manson. Then all of a sudden it was like, okay, Marilyn Manson, he did all this to me, and I'm gonna make sure that I torpedo his marriage. And that's exactly what she did. Now, I do want to Marilyn Manson uncanceled. I want to go through the whole thing, but I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to save that for my Discord thing. But it's too hard to believe. It really is. And yes, I'm saying for the record, it's too hard to believe the timing of everything. Now, if Marilyn Manson did all these things, and now she realizes 2 years ago that he did all these things to her, and she realized that he grape juiced her, that he abused her, that he physically and emotionally abused her, all those things he did, and now she realizes that after he marries Lindsay and Lindsay becomes Lindsay Manson or Lindsay Warner. Now, oh man, I should have brought, okay. So after when she breaks up with Marilyn Manson, she leaves him. And he went through some things, got on his feet and got with Lindsay, I guess a couple other people. Mm, I feel bad for Marilyn. I feel so bad. She destroyed his everything. So after when, okay, look, okay, I'm just gonna just let it out. Look, what she did was horrible. It was calculating and it was terrible. She had a child attack. She had an adolescent outburst because she didn't get what she wanted. She wanted to be Mrs. Warner, Mrs. Marilyn Manson. She wanted him. She wanted the last name, the notoriety, and maybe every now and again, I don't like you, Marilyn, and then I want to go head off and go do and be with other people. But I want you to be there when I want you, because Marilyn did say that she was getting an abortion, and she said that it wasn't his child, but that was right around the time that she was with him. And then it makes you stop and wonder, wait a minute, she's doing all this stuff? She's doing all this stuff and being sexually free, but has PTSD and anxiety, and she sees people at night in his sleep. I mean, it's something. I'm not taking away from anyone that has truly have these issues. My heart goes out to you. I'm just simply talking about Evan, just her, because she did all of this. Not only did she do this, but she got with other people. Wait, let me back it up. Let me back it up for a second. Oh my goodness, this is so diabolical. Ooh. Mm-mm-mm. There's nothing worse than a woman scorned. I don't even know why she was scorned, because she left him. All right. So Evan leaves him and gets with Ilma. I don't know how that occurred right there. I don't know how that occurred. But she leaves him, and then all of a sudden, maybe because Ilma, how can I say? I don't want to call her a useful idiot. I don't want to say that. I don't want, but she was. She blindly did any and everything for Evan Rachel Wood. Whenever Evan said jump, Ilma jumped. When Evan Rachel Wood said sit down, she would sit down. Now, some people believe, or in the school of thought, that that Ilma Gore had the reins in this relationship, but no. Evan Rachel Wood had the reins in the relationship. And if you look at the relationships that she has had, she had the reins in it until she could not manipulate or get anything out of it. I could only imagine what that was with Ed Norton. I know, I can't say I know, I could only assume that he wants that part of his life to be total amnesia, just to sort of erase that right there. Erase that, erase that right there. Make sure that, yeah, I believe that. Ilma was a useful idiot. She was. She went out and she would just say any old kind of thing based on what Evan Rachel Wood said. Evan had the stories, Ilma had the ear to listen, and people may call her a grifter. Yeah, hands down, Ilma is a grifter. In my opinion, is a grifter. But even grifters can be grifted by a masterful grifter, which I believe Evan Rachel Wood is all those things. A manipulator, you name it. Mm. And plus, she's outrageously talented and accomplished and an accomplished actor. She is. She just played Ilma like a fiddle. Played her good, but played her. Now, that's when all these grape juice accusations start coming out. When the two of them got together, Marilyn Manson married Lindsay. When all those things happened, then it's like he abused me. She didn't say that 10 years ago. Sure, she was like, "Oh, he's a really good guy," all this other stuff. She was singing his praises, how he was a great guy, great person. They had a great relationship. All those things was great, 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 great. But now he's a, a grape juice person, a grape juicer. You can't make this stuff up. No, you can make it up. You can make it up, but it's so outrageous. And as soon as she started making these allegations, he started losing things. People start looking at him like, yeah, Marilyn, you are a bit out there. You are kooky and strange, and you have this image on stage that you're kind of goth, all this stuff. Yeah, okay. He does, but it doesn't mean that's who he is. No, uh-uh, not at all. But she used those images that people had in their head because I have to admit, I remember when Marilyn Manson came out, and I remember him being on a Phil Donahue. I remember that. That was back what in 90, 93, 94, and I'm looking at him like this guy. This guy is really strange. I can admit that. And who would have ever thunk years later I'll be sitting here making videos defending him? You see how the world turns? He did have that image, and that right there is the sad thing about it. Evan took his public image that people have thought, because I've gotten into arguments with people, well, not arguments, but disagreements, that Marilyn Manson was not who he portrayed himself to be on stage. I have to tell people, look, who he is on stage is not who he is off stage. Now, yeah, he may be in character, he may wear his costume and all this other stuff outside, but no, we have to be able to separate Marilyn Manson to Brian Warner. We have the ability to do that. We do. So then she throws all these allegations out there, and then mm, everything for him falls apart. I mean, Ilma got to the point to where she was calling calling the police to his mansion several times, where there was helicopters going over his house, police going in to make sure he was okay, all kinds of stuff that they were doing. And that was the manipulation that, well, do I want to call it brainwashing? Do I want to say that? Okay, brainwashing that she did to Ilma Gore. And Ilma Gore is no innocent person. I'm not saying that, but I thought that what she did on Donald Trump, that was kind of funny. Okay. But all of this comes from Evan Rachel Wood. And she's just using people, not to mention, she had a girl, a young lady, when she was doing the movie or her documentary that she thought she was going to get billions of dollars for. And I said several times she's going to get $2.50. Who was working on her PhD in, what's it? I think something about women's studies or something of that sort. But her dissertation was abuse in Hollywood. And Evan Rachel Wood worked with her, and she's getting all this information from Evan Rachel Wood while she's writing her dissertation to get her PhD. And she did all that based on a lie. She can't use any of that information. She can't. She has to start all over again. And that right there is a pain, working from your thesis onto your dissertation. But she used all those people, and she used them to do one thing: to go after Marilyn Manson. He didn't marry her. He proposed to her, put rings on her hand, gave her 2 engagement rings, but didn't make her Mrs. Brian Warner. No. So, can we blame this on her mental instability? Possibly. Go back to her brother. She can't tell from real from reality. And then you have to stop and ask yourself, everyone that has been or spent time with Evan Rachel Wood, whether if it was on work, whether if it was in some kind of regular platonic relationship, or whether it was a romantic relationship, was she Evan Rachel Wood, or was she in some kind of character? That is scary. That is scary. Now, before I get to the to some of the evidence that Marilyn Manson is suing her for defamation. Wow, this is so big. You think Johnny Depp and Amber Heard stuff was big? Oh, this is going to be massive. OMG, it's going to be humongous. Now, Evan Rachel Wood, in my opinion, is her own guided missile. She doesn't need other people. She truly doesn't. Well, she used, what's her name? Ilma Gore. Ilma Gore was again a useful idiot. Poor thing. I mean, I do feel some kind of sympathy for Ilma, because she was only going out there parroting what was told to her. And she had no reason to believe that Ilma or that Evan Rachel Wood was lying to her. She had no reason to believe it. She had every reason to believe that she loved Evan Rachel Wood, and she loved her enough to do this foolish stuff. And maybe if she did enough, that maybe Evan Rachel Wood would turn around and say, Ilma, I really love you. This is really crazy. I don't know why I'm doing this. He has a wife. I have you, and you're enough for me, and I can be happy with you. Anyone who's truly in love with a person would want to hear those things, and who would do whatever for a person because people do it every day. You don't have to be a Hollywood star. You don't have to be a millionaire or a billionaire. You can be the average, everyday person and do the same thing because we do it all the time. Whenever one of our friends say something, we're like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe it." And then we get into the story. Okay, I'm ready to go sock that person. Yeah. Now, let's talk about some of the instruments. And when I say instruments, I don't mean, yeah, I do mean physical instruments. I mean about the letters, the papers that were passed out, the people that were involved. This was takedown, a huge takedown that Evan Rachel Wood, with the help of Ilma Gore, because she was so in love with Evan Rachel Wood. Evan Rachel Wood is in love with Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson is in love with his wife Lindsay. Now, the instruments that were used. One of the first things that Ilma Gore and Evan Rachel Wood did was talk to Ashley Walters. Ashley Walters was the glue that glued all of this together. She was the spine, the focal point that gathered everyone together because she still had all the contacts. Now, her main thing, I believe, was getting back at Marilyn Manson, and she was able to do it because he yelled at her. He allegedly emotionally abused Ashley Walters because she destroyed his car. She got in his car, got drunk, her and Esme Bianco, because Esme Bianco had an axe to grind too, because man, you can't. She's from England, and she was married. She left her husband to come over here to be with Marilyn. What do they call it? Across the pond to do a photo shoot or some kind of kink thing that Marilyn does some weird stuff. True, but he has an audience for it. There are people that like that stuff. Now she comes in to the situation and because Ashley was like, well, okay, he yelled at me. I'm going to get him back. He fired me. How dare he fire me? Not once, but he fired me twice. He did this to me. Look at some of my older videos, and I go over the declarations. And the declarations is simply a statement that they submit to the courts. And the courts don't say whether if it's right or wrong. They just simply take it and then they do their what is it called the deposition. Then the deposition is the important thing to where it goes under oath and you under oath. The declaration is not under oath. That's just like blah 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 blah. Write it down here, submit it. The other one is under oath. So she still had all that contact information and gave it, and she knew everyone that Marilyn Manson was romantically involved with. She knew and she gave it to Evan. Just imagine how Evan found out that she wasn't the only one when she was with Marilyn. Just imagine what kind of extra steam and anger she had towards him. If you were to break up with your ex boyfriend and then you talk to him 5 years later and you all were moved on or whatever, and you found out that he was fooling around with somebody else while he was with you, you would feel some kind of way about that. I think most people would. It's just something about okay. So Ashley was the one that was able to pull all this together for Evan Rachel Wood to get back at Marilyn Manson, and Evan Rachel Wood, and this is what really gets me. I don't think people really see this, and that is she has that ace in the hole. The ace in the hole is she has that mental instability. She can fall back on it. I mean, if you look, I have it down in Marilyn Manson uncanceled.com. I mean, he really gets into it. I mean, he really, really gets into her and what she's talking about. And I wish I would have found this sooner. I really wish I would have, because it goes right into everything what's being spoken about. And now she's saying, and she keeps on saying PTSD, PTSD. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know whether if let me look it up. Does does PTSD have delusions? Is that a side effect or a symptom? And they normally say is that PTSD is when someone has some serious traumatic experience. Now you can go outside, walk down the street, and then you can hear gunfire. That can be PTSD. You can have it and then it would subside and then you would get your nerves together. You would have heightened sense. You would feel insecure and all this, not all this other stuff, but yeah. But but PTSD, let's see what they're saying. PTSD, this is unusual. This is usually caused by denial. Most survivors of traumatic events often suppress the event altogether in an attempt to get back to a place of normalcy. Once the denial starts to wear off, then this symptom starts to manifest. What are the symptoms? Okay, come on. Okay, you get flashbacks. That's one symptom. Okay, let me find another one. That was not a good one. Flashbacks. Okay, this should be a better one. Okay, distressing and involuntary thoughts and memories, distressing dreams related to traumatic events, flashbacks, and associative disorder, psychological distress, clear psychological reactions to things reminding you of a traumatic event. And then it goes into additional symptoms: reckless behavior, concentration problems, insomnia, sleep issues, frequent nightmares. So that's just, oh, wow, it goes on. How did this happen? Participating in a military battle, natural or incidental disaster, physical assault, assault, car accident, high stress jobs, serious health problems, severe injuries, childbirth, especially losing a baby, and it goes on. So we have some background, at least some info there. And if you want to look at Marilyn Manson's canceled, I'll put that in there. So if you want to call in, you can and give me your thoughts on Evan Rachel Wood. If you would like to call in, here is the telephone number. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just all over the place. Oh no. Okay. Let me put the number up. I accidentally deleted my number. I got great luck. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have known this. Two, so- Okay. Now if you want to call in, you can. You can go ahead and call in and give your thoughts on Evan Rachel Wood. Because even by her saying that she was groomed, you can go back in her history. No, if it was anything, she groomed guys, in my humble opinion. Just by having access to books at a young age, that really can make someone turn. Having that, being that young and impressionable, and reading about Lolita in the seventh grade, oh, that is a disaster, a recipe for disaster. And just having all that freedom to do whatever you want to do. So you can call in or put something down in the chat. What are your thoughts? Do you think that Evan Rachel Wood is making all of this up? And she does have an underlying mental health issue that is pushing all of this? It's really something. Got to get my little stand. But that's all I really wanted to present yesterday when I had that unfortunate interruption, because family will do it to you. They will come in and just say, forget about what you're doing. I'm more important. Yeah, but just researching Evan Rachel Wood, oof, you would have to stop and think, where was Marilyn Manson up here when he was dealing with Evan Rachel Wood? Now, I don't know what the fascination is with older men and younger women. I don't know whether if it's because they're younger and they are fertile and can have as many children as he may want. I'm not quite sure. But what was within him that attracted Evan Rachel Wood, or even to go down that road with her? No, well, not knowing, but I guess maybe spending some time with her, he was able to see that there were some serious issues there, and to say, "Hey, you need to go head on and go get some help." Anything would have been good, but looking within him and why he would let Dita go. I mean, Dita wasn't putting up with a lot of that stuff that he was dishing out, because Dita's like what? You see, Marilyn's like 53, and Dita would be 40, what, 42, somewhere around there. but there wasn't that much of a huge age gap. So on that note, I'm going to close this down. But before I do, would you like to put something down in the chat? Okay. Well, my thoughts are this. Before I close this out, my thoughts are this. Evan, women like Evan can be every man's worst nightmare because they come in with a smile and beauty and all the things that would attract a man visually. But once you pull back that one layer, you quickly see some rottenness. But within that rottenness, the man is able to overlook that because he's still looking at the beauty and not paying attention to the rottenness that he sees. He's like, oh well, she's beautiful, and that's not going to happen to me because I know how to maneuver through this because most guys think that way. And as time goes on, the rottenness got bigger and bigger, and then it started to affect him. That's what I think. I think that he overlooked the signs. I think that he could have jumped over the hole. Like my a friend of mine's father said, and it made so much sense. He said, "Do you see that big hole right there? You see someone who was on a bike, went over the ramp, tried to go over the hole, but fell in. And how many people fell in there? Many people fell in there. Now, why are you going to do the same thing? Find another way, go around the hole." Now, Marilyn Manson saw, I can't say saw, but Edward Norton, Edward Norton went down that hill, tried to jump over the hole, and fell in when it came to Evan Rachel Wood. I don't know how long it took for him to realize, I'm going the opposite direction. I don't know how long it took him to see that. But Marilyn Manson hung around there for about 4 or 5 years, and within that time, she left him and came back. Left him again and came back. I don't know, Marilyn. But on that note, I'm going to leave on that note. I just want to say thank you for stopping by. And please like, subscribe. Likes and subscriptions are for free. And my cookies, my members, I'm getting ready to go over to Discord. There's a lot of stuff I have up that we can go ahead and talk about and map out what we think that how the court case is gonna go. Okay, I want to thank you because you are any and everywhere in the world, and you could be doing anything. But what you're doing is you're here with me, and I greatly appreciate it. And I want to thank you for stopping by.